Coming off of an inconsistent yet impressive freshman year with Colorado, Cody Williams showcased enough to be considered to be a lottery pick in this year's upcoming draft. In his lone season with the Buffs, the 6'8" wing posted numbers of 12 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist and a half per game, and alongside those stats are impressive splits of 55% overall field goal percentage, 42% from deep, and just above 70% from the free throw line. And when I say he had an inconsistent season, I'm referring to a bevy of injuries and lineup changes that Williams faced during that year. He encountered 2 significant injuries of a high ankle sprain and a broken hand, and was in and out of the starting lineup. But in the 24 games that he did get to play, Williams revealed a lot about his game, and more specifically what he can contribute to an NBA team that solidified his status of a lottery pick. As the brother of OKC's Jalen Williams, Cody possesses similar speed and athleticism to his brother, and with a 35-inch vertical and a top 3/4 sprint time at the combine, it's clear that Cody will be up to par with some of the best athletes in the entire NBA. And despite his athleticism and excellent efficiency, Williams' game does have some strong negatives that give me some worry about his upcoming career and what could play out in the NBA. He's a pretty raw prospect, and he lacks strong fundamentals with ball handling and his on-court awareness. However, he does have some extremely positive moments in the film that in my mind make him worth a mid to high lottery selection in this 4 to 11 range. Although he will prove to be one of the most volatile prospects in this draft, I can project him to go from anywhere of having a high ceiling as an all-NBA two-way shot creator to a floor of being out of the league, not even gaining a second contract perhaps. And as we'll get into it, his drawbacks could see him placed out of the league like I said, or even buried in rotations. So it really depends on the situation and how his game evolves over time and how he can capitalize on the tools and success he's already found so far. So the most concerning thing about Cody Williams' game to me is his ball handling and decision making. With a negative assist to turnover ratio, he'll likely not be an on-ball creator out of the gates in the league, and judging by the film, it may take a few years before teams really can begin to even trust him with the ball at a decent volume. And although he's a true freshman, so is pretty young in this draft, his thin frame will likely cause him a lot of trouble in the league as it has in college. A lot of his turnovers can be attributed to his weakness, and as he gets stripped pretty easily while driving, he can also lose the ball while absorbing contact from a defender as well. He has a pretty shaky handle on top of that, which contributes to his ability to get stripped as well, and can often get lost in the moment with his head down and might not always recognize the efforts of 1, 2, or even 3 defenders closing in on him. His hands aren't great either, and he'll often fumble the ball trying to catch it or trying to even shoot for that matter. Opposing defenses are definitely aware of this as well, and they collapsed on his drives, and because the risk is not as high as it could be, with Williams having his head on a swivel, passing out to other people, it was worth the risk for these teams, and they stripped him a lot of times on drives when they collapsed, as well as on the perimeter. As it stands, Williams lacks the awareness and the handle to be an effective on-ball player right now, but this isn't to say he's a lost cause by any means. Colorado did run a lot of on-ball sets and actions for Williams, so there is a chance that he develops part of his game fully in this way. And in terms of boom or bust, this is definitely the greatest attribute, which could lead to the downfall of Cody Williams in the NBA as a bust, as higher level NBA defenses will only further expose this weakness to a potentially exponentially worse degree. I can see this handle being something that hopefully teams will tell him he needs to work on, and something I think he knows he needs to work on as well, because his control of the basketball definitely affects every single part of his game, from being able to shoot and being able to have the ball just in general. It definitely affects everything he does and is the key for him to unlock being an elite NBA player, or even one who sticks around for more than a few years. And really quickly, I just want to note that in my previous video about Zaccharie Risacher, I said that handling was also one of his biggest weaknesses, but I think it's important to mention the discrepancy here between where Williams is and where Risacher is as well. Risacher as a ball handler is far ahead of Cody Williams, and also understands that he can do things without the basketball that makes him an effective scorer, whereas I would say that Cody Williams doesn't exactly have that attribute, and with a significantly weaker handle, it definitely makes him a much worse prospect than Risacher, with a similar profile and shot diet as a high impact driver and high catch and shoot player with defensive upside. Even with his lack of handle, Williams was an elite driver at the college level last season. While he has poor positioning and awareness on ball, He seems to always be in the right place off the ball and is always receptive to a pass in transition. Not only that, but as an 89th percentile cutter, he's hyper efficient around the rim when fed by a teammate. He has strong finishing skills with both finesse and athleticism, and while his handle isn't the feature of the move, he's one of the best when it comes to driving. As a rim finisher, Williams shot 75% from the field overall, which is good enough for the 97th percentile in efficiency per synergy. So if rip-throughs, posters, and Euros make up his arsenal, these moves all help him beat defenders at the cup and don't involve dribbling. He has a great pace while driving as well, and does well at adjusting his speed and hesitating to outmaneuver defenders. His finishing will definitely translate at the next level, and I think it could be the hallmark of his game. He has exhibited the ability to dribble somewhat when coming down the lane with drives, but as you can see in the clips before this, he runs into a lot of trouble that way, and it's definitely more of a question than his non-dribbling rim finishing is an answer.
Doesn't get the roll, boarded by De Silva for Colorado. Williams again brings it back. Williams on the attack, right to the rim. Cody Williams, his first look of the second half. Luke O'Brien has the rebound. Williams crossing over, attack.
Simpson lob and a finish. And the De Silva. And Williams, and that's going to be a blocking foul behind. I think O'Brien, maybe it was Hadley who got a hand on it. All the way goes.
Here's Williams in transition. Oh, man! And the next part of the equation. There's Williams again with great hands. And see if he does it again. And he'll finish.
Although he didn't have the highest shooting volume with the Buffs last season, Cody Williams posted insane efficiency on jump shots. He had a 67% effective field goal percentage on each catch and shoot jumpers he took, good enough for the 95th percentile per synergy. On unguarded catch and shoot attempts, he was in the 100th percentile and had an amazing 1.8 points per possession on these shots and was a knockdown shooter when uncovered. His shooting will definitely translate to the NBA in my opinion, and he'll be a tough cover out the gates and somebody that opposing defenses will need to pay attention to and definitely respect when it comes to jump shots. He showcased an ability to hit catch and shoot jumpers from just about anywhere last season, and his deep range can help spread the floor for him and for his teammates as well. Although he might not always know where his feet are, he can hit from just about any spot around the perimeter, and once again his handle is somewhat of a concern with his jumpers as well. He shot a lot of mid-range pull-ups that rarely saw the back of the net, and just like on his drives, his poor ball control leads to an awkward motion transitioning from dribble to shot, and there's a big difference between when he's shooting a catch and shoot and when he's shooting a dribble jumper in the mechanics and the shot quality as well. His poor ball control leads to an awkward motion, like I said, and so these shots have an even worse arc and aim than even his deep catch and shoot shots. William does show strong flashes in these moments with dribble pull-ups though, but things go south a lot more often than not, and it's interesting to note that he can often dribble himself into trouble while hunting a shot this way, but is very effective on relocation moves, so even when he's trying to pick his spots from the mid-range, if he passes and relocates, he'll have an easy catch and shoot jumper because he's much more effective off the ball than he is on the ball.
It's very clear he's still coming back from the surgery. Cody Williams.
Go for Malik Moore. Williams.
To the tournament that's never happened in school history. Williams has a deep mid-range J.
I'm sure one of the things Lorenzo Romar said to his team at the half was, the old wipe the slate clean and try to play a much better second half. It's probably
Simpson cut off as the Rams get back. Bumps into De Silva and then into the corner. Williams for
Right now is on De Silva. That's about a 9-inch discrepancy. Now they're going to flash his zone. Yeah, they went full court and fall back into his zone. Cody Williams.
A lot of interest. This is going to change a lot of stuff. Absolutely is. Eugene, Oregon is about to.
Here's Hadley backing it out. Yes. Well, I don't know. You're talking about the standings, and all of a sudden it morphed into talk about which shoe company. They love Joe.
Williams step in two, still scoreless.
So opponents shot just 34% from the field with Cody Williams as their primary defender, putting him in excellent company at the collegiate level. Williams is great at sticking with his opponents on drives and has the length and the timing to send shots into the stands if people dare to shoot against him in the paint. His opponent shot an extremely low 37% from the field at the rim with him defending, putting Williams in the 87th percentile for rim defense, which is not only excellent in general, but great when you consider that he's just a wing player. However, his perimeter defense definitely lags behind his interior defense. Williams struggles to work around screens, often getting stuck, or is a few steps behind his assignment. Since he's still pretty weak, he can often get stuck on screens as well, and this leads to unfavorable switches that create mismatches for his opponents. His off-ball positioning on defense isn't great either, and so he can oftentimes give up open shots to players behind the arc. Not only that, but his poor positioning combines with a relatively weak closeout, so players can easily hit shots with him roaming around in the gaps. He often commits to one side and then can't quite recover in time. Especially as a wing defender, I'm slightly concerned about his transition to the league on the defensive end, as he'll soon be matched up with bigger and even more effective shot-creating wings on top of larger and more adept bigs at taking care of mismatches. Overall, he's going to need to figure out his positioning and get a little bit stronger as well to make a strong impact on the defensive end at the next level. One thing to look out for when watching the remaining of these clips is thinking about how at the next level better passers can also take advantage of his poor positioning. Thinking about what we've seen with Williams so far, it's pretty clear that the skip pass is the bane of his existence on the defensive end, and so you can only imagine that high-level NBA guards will be able to dice him apart and find wide-open shooters on the wings and in the corner when he tends to pay a little more attention on what's going on with a potential drive, with a potential post-up, or even what the guard's doing up top versus his actual man, who's likely a better shooter than he leads on with his defensive positioning.
Winsu on the drive and the Euro, and it trickled off. Offensive rebound. Yakimovsky missed it. Tip back out.
Possibly can, because that was a no-look pass by KJ Simpson. An instructional video on how to move the defense with your eyes. That was awesome. And stay locked in. Get guys open looks. Luke O'Brien. Pride of Columbine High School.
Ronnie James already at the scorer's table after that last turnover. Williams guarding Collier. A step back three from Collier is on the one look. Connecticut, by the way, has won 14 in a row, and you touched on their win today over Marquette. I saw a note, it's the largest margin of victory, 28 points, in a matchup of top 5 teams in a conference game ever. As that,
well, especially on the road, you're giving life and energy to your opponent.
Collier working on Williams, crosses him over, and then Williams sends it back.
So Cody Williams is definitely a difficult prospect to evaluate here because of the major discrepancies between his strengths and weaknesses. As it currently stands, Williams is an elite driver and catch and shoot threat with a very poor ball handle, and on the defensive end, he's a weak off-ball perimeter defender but has a strong on-ball presence and elite rim protection for a wing player. With someone as difficult to project as this, how he works on his game in the NBA will probably be the determining factor on his success as well as his team situation. So looking at the draft board for this 2024 NBA draft, I think he'd fit well with a few teams. I think he'd fit well with Detroit at 5, Portland at 7, San Antonio at 8, Utah at 10, and Chicago at 11. All of these teams are likely to be patient with Cody Williams and will help him develop into a two-way, shot-creating wing as he goes through his career. I think there are a few locations that he could end up with that would probably tank his career and see him being someone who doesn't really amount to what his potential could be in the league. For example, Charlotte at 6, Memphis at 9, OKC at 12, or Sacramento at 13 all seem to be teams that scream to me like if Cody Williams ended up there, he'll get buried in the lineup and probably not have the attention and the care as well as the on-court safety and the free reign to develop well into what I think he could become. Overall though, I'm excited to see how his career unfolds, and I tend to be more optimistic about what he could project to be, even if that isn't a star in this league. I think he could easily find his place as a role player who can play great defense and simply shoot without needing the ball, because in the NBA there are a lot of players who have found success doing things just like that, and not everybody amounts to this superstar status, like I said in my previous video. For example, there are a lot of players around the league who do something at a really elite level. Take, for example, Jalen McDaniels, who is more of a wing defender and a spot-up shooter. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope fills a similar mold. I think this is something that Cody Williams could develop into, assuming he never potentially develops as an on-ball threat.